And after being exposed to the University of Chicago and all the different materials that I was exposed to, I thought that I would be exposed to nothing but tungsten. And did I want to do that? I would, once I took the job, I would be like a slave to General Electric, let's face it, in a job like that. And so that's one reason I hesitated about that. It probably would have paid a lot more money. And so I also got a job offer the same day from DuPont for their corporate research lab in Wilmington, Delaware. And we were training DuPont people in Chicago to go out to Hanford. And, you know, we were talking about uranium and pyrophoric and radiation and the different crystals and stuff. This is the first exposure materials people were ever facing. And so I got to meet really from the president to Cal Jones, who was head of the metallurgy materials, so and their superintendents. So I didn't have to go through any interview. They had enough people that were acquainted with me, and was down there showing them how we were rolling, what the key points were to watch for, and grinding and all that business. But I thought, even though Joslin was a small stainless steel, I would probably encounter more different problems and learn more than I would concentrated in one. With DuPont, it would have been a different story. And that was the correct thing.
The correct thing, and so what was the decision that you made? To go
I
with
made
Joslin?
it to accept a job with Joslin.
Right.
And turned out...
Your title? What was your title there?
At first as a chief inspector and sales engineer. And I reported to the vice president, which gave me a certain amount of comfort with the people at the plant.
Yeah, tell us about, you had a problem with one particular person at the plant, the general manager.
The general manager.
Tell us about that.
The first week that I was working, took over the responsibility for the final inspection of all the products that they were shipping. They call it the cold finishing. And they had a crew of inspectors, and I come along. I was still about 24, 25.
Young whippersnapper.
And taken over. And so we had a bundle that came across one of the benches, and the foreman came up to me and said, "Andy, we have a lot of rejects, and you have to be a good inspector to be able to spot them, have good eyes." And they used a file. When you saw something that was very tight, if you filed it a little, it showed up much clearer. And so I rejected it. And of course, like I told Frank, the news traveled up to the general manager. So later on, he comes storming out to the inspection department, and he said, "What do you mean you're rejecting the whole bundle of steel?" I told him, "Well, we have too many reject bars in the bundle, and if it's got that many, I question how good the balance of it is." So he stormed and hawed, told him to take a look at it, you know. And he turned around to me and said, "In the steel industry, it's practice to ship up to 3% of the order with defects, certain type of defects. Some are very small." And I said, "Well, if you think you want to ship it," I said, "you sign the inspection report because I'm not going to sign it." And of course, my inspectors are all listening. From there on, I was their favorite boss.
But the general manager, he tried to overrule you, didn't he? He complained, didn't he?
Oh, he complained, but when I told him I wouldn't sign an inspection report, and he knew I reported to the vice president in Chicago, he knew he was in trouble if he counteracted my orders. So that took care of that, and things settled down, and I laid out the ground rules that I was going to be operating right the first week. And so from there, all the incidents would come up, but they were never a problem.
And eventually you became friends, right?
Later on, after I went to Joliet, just trying to cure some problems that they encountered. You know, at that point, I was dealing with much elderly men, superintendents and that. And I'm a young guy, and what I should have done is gone to the general manager and fired the bearing shop superintendent because he was the culprit.
I see.
The workers were trying to do a good job, and when they went home, when they rejected something, he would put it back into the pipeline.
Oh boy.
But I found this out from the workers. You know, you had to be able to communicate, and that they trusted you. That
I think that's very.
It was very difficult for me to make that decision and firing people, but that would have been the first good thing I'd done.
But you didn't did you fire him? You did not.
No, it ended up I corrected and was producing the best quality. The salesman said, "That's the best quality tapered roller bearings that they were producing." It was for farm implements and for automobiles back in the Model A Fords and but this guy didn't know he had no background for the job, believe me.
I think we could mention in this period, 1945 to 63, you gained experience in various elements of the steel industry rather than uranium. So this job now lasted about 2 years.
2 years.
At which point you made another change.